I got married to Calvin, but we didn't sign any legal papers. Where I come from, you first need to get pregnant before you can make it official. To keep up with this tradition, Calvin put in the night shift every single night. Finally, I got 2 pink lines on the test. I left him a note, bye-bye. Fast forward 4 years, I'm dropping my son off at preschool. I saw dozens of black cars parked outside, totally intimidating. I parked my little scooter 100 yards away, and my son, waddling with his tiny legs, mumbled, "Who's trying to show off like that?" I paused, "Your dad." After our wedding ceremony was done, Calvin pulled out the household registration book. Hands shaking nervously, he said, "Baby, let's go to the Civil Affairs Bureau and make it official." Compared to him, I was chill as can be. "Let's wait a bit." Calvin looked like he'd been hit with a cold bucket of water. "Wait more? We just had a wedding today and you're still not ready to sign?" "Yep." I averted his gaze. "According to our customs, first you have a wedding, then we wait until pregnancy to get married legally." Calvin had never heard of such traditions, incredulous. "What kind of outdated nonsense custom is this? It makes no sense." "It's from where I'm from." Calvin almost choked. "I don't care about your customs, I want to make our marriage official today, not a day later, or else people will laugh at me." He angrily turned the wheel, aiming for the Civil Affairs Bureau. I pursed my lips and seriously said, "Calvin, I thought you respected me." "Of course I respect you." For safety's sake, he slowed down the car. "You said you're used to living in your own apartment and didn't want to move, so I moved in with you. Your parents couldn't come back from abroad, so we cut the parents' appearance at the ceremony. Your friends are socially anxious, so I didn't even say hi to them. Is that not enough respect? You couldn't find fault with him if you tried. Well, try finding fault with me then. You know I'm a traditional girl, different from those girls you meet who have no standards. If I went with you today, my folks would disown me." The more I talked, the more scared I got, tears rolling down my face. Calvin got worried fast, stopping the car at the roadside. "How can that be? You're their daughter, they wouldn't just cut ties like that. You don't get it." I sobbed hard. "From day one, our family was strict. My mom, oh no, my dad broke plenty of canes dealing with me when I was a kid. In our house, there's no room for mistakes." Calvin's face got more serious, angry even. "Parents shouldn't act like that. You don't need folks like that." My sobbing paused. "So you want me to cut ties with them for you?" "No, that's not what I meant." "Ugh." Calvin banged the steering wheel. "Okay, we'll wait for you to get pregnant." He leaned in and kissed me, maybe more to reassure himself. "It won't be long." I felt touched. "I believe you." But the mood was tense. That night, he was upset, and things got a little rough. I tried to brush it off, but I couldn't take it anymore. I kicked him off the bed. "Don't want to do it? Then don't." "I do. I do." Calvin crawled back quickly, regaining his focus. "Gotta admit, he's pretty skilled. Actually, really good." I was quite happy. After a long night of it, I got up to shower. Calvin pulled me back. "Don't you want to make a baby? Don't wash." "But there was a lot today, it's uncomfortable." He was suddenly super proud. "A lot?" I thought it wasn't enough. He pulled me closer, a bit more. Finally, I was just too tired to move. "Meet Linda. I've got a bit of a player side. I want a kid, just no guy. I want to date but not marry. Used a lot of dating apps, talked to many guys. No strings attached. Lots of guys are game. They're good at sowing their seeds. But I was catfished every time. Once we meet, that Prince Charming turns into Shrek. Seriously, they all look as rough as it gets. Not what I wanted for my kids' genes." I got desperate and camped outside the Beijing University gate, and found Calvin. He wasn't a student. I figured he was a professor. Even better. Professors are smart. We started seeing each other. Turns out, he was a boss. He was at the university for some investment project. By then, we'd already gotten pretty close. At first, he was careful, using protection. I was fuming. I'm here for a baby, why the protection? So I acted all upset. Do you not want any ties? Afraid I'll cling to you if I get pregnant? I get it, you just want to play. No way. Calvin quickly said, I've even thought about baby names. I was just afraid you weren't ready. I laughed, through my tears. I'm ready, of course. But discovering his complex family background spooked me. I thought about backing off. But I guess the dopamine in his brain was peaking. I mentioned breaking up once, and he dropped everything to question me. To avoid any dramatic moves from him, I made up an excuse, saying I was just testing his feelings. Calvin held me like he'd never let go, his voice hoarse. Don't test me like that again. I'll lose it. All those crime stories of dismemberment flashed in my head. I got too scared to break up and decided to keep it calm for now. Didn't expect him to be so eager, soon wanted me to meet his folks and marry. I just told him to wait a little. But he misread my hesitation as a hint and arranged an extravagant proposal. In front of all his friends and family, I couldn't turn him down. Wedding date set faster than I could process it. Calvin, probably overwhelmed, only then realized he hadn't met my parents. I had a quick solution. They're abroad with a special job, won't be back for 6 more months, let's push the wedding a bit. No way. Invitations are out. He seemed to have a gut feeling, fearing delays. I thought, alright, we'll have the wedding now, they'll meet you as my husband when they return. Have the wedding if you want, but we won't sign the papers. I need to get pregnant soon. Otherwise, we'll end up dragging this out, and even if Calvin's head over heels, he'll realize something's up. Calvin's been super busy with work, so we postponed the honeymoon. The next day, I met up with Fiona. She's the only friend I've introduced to Calvin. Honestly, Calvin's not that bad. Maybe we could just make it work. Fiona wasn't the first to say that. She thinks Calvin's looks, character, and family background are great, and marrying him would make me happy. But life's long, and who knows what'll happen. Maybe so, but I'm not ready to gamble on it. I didn't come today to hear her say this stuff. Those people yesterday, they won't be a problem, right? Fiona rolled her eyes. Of course not, they were just tourists. After eating at the wedding feast, they all took their flights back. I saw them head through the boarding gate myself. Yeah, my so-called friends at the wedding were just hired extras. I don't know them. To keep Calvin from suspecting anything, I asked Fiona to help find a group of tourists through a travel agency. They came to the wedding, ate, and left without saying a word. My apartment's pretty far from Calvin's work. It's tough for him to commute every day. I feel for him, so I make soup. Sea cucumber and deer antler soup. Calvin gave me a knowing look, and leeks and oysters. Looks like I've got some work to do. I planned to watch a movie that night, but Calvin jumped on me. I swatted him. What's the rush? Calvin started tugging at my clothes. Can't waste that libido-boosting meal you made. How did he notice? Whether it was the meal or something else, Calvin seemed more enduring than before. So I kept cooking up concoctions for him. Unfortunately, at the end of the month, my period came. I sat on the toilet for ages, chin in hand, but sticking out. Why can't I get pregnant? What's the problem? Calvin knocked on the bathroom door. Baby, still not out? Need help? He probably thinks I'm constipated and wants to fetch me a laxative. His voice got on my nerves. I yanked up my pants and flung the door open, glaring at him. We're going to the hospital for a checkup tomorrow. Calvin, huh? The next day at the hospital, we ran into his mom, Lily. She's into traditional Chinese medicine now, studying all the old practices. She asked where I wasn't feeling well. I shook my head. Maybe you should check Calvin instead. Lily switched gears quickly. Son, you feeling unwell? Calvin turned pale. Nah, Mom, not your business, you should head back. Lily looked suspicious, turning back multiple times as she got into the elevator. I took Calvin to see a urologist. After some thorough tests, the doctor said he's perfectly fine. Calvin's chest puffed out. Told you, I'm all faithful and clean, got no issues. I wondered aloud, could my body be the problem? If there's nothing wrong with you and nothing with me. Calvin was firm, let's head home. That night, Lily had us over for dinner. She pulled Calvin aside, saying she had something to tell him. But my ears were sharp. Lily kindly lectured, son, don't lose hope. Medicine's advanced now. With the right treatment, nothing's impossible. Calvin nearly lost it, Mom. I'm healthy as can be. Stop adding stress. Lily was skeptical, are you sure? Calvin, for sure. Lily, I'll have a chubby grandson? Calvin, absolutely. Lily sighed in relief, that's good then. I lowered my ears and chewed on my apple. Calvin's company had a big project going on. Sometimes he had to go out and network. He almost never drank though. If he came home tipsy, I wouldn't let him touch me. I said it was the alcohol smell, but honestly, I was worried it'd mess with the future baby's health. One day he texted me, baby, these folks won't leave me alone. Can you come get me? Won't leave alone typically meant someone was trying to set him up with a woman. Gotta rescue my man, right? No hesitation. I grabbed a cab to the hotel and found Calvin's private room. I burst in, tossed my bag at him. Do you see what time it is? Is the music outside that good? The drinks that tasty? You don't want to come home anymore? Fine. Don't bother coming anymore. Everyone's shocked by my fiery demeanor. Calvin looked sheepish, turning to some middle-aged men. Sorry, folks, strict household. Get home after 10, it's knee time on the glass tiles. Calvin turned back to me, sorry, babe. Wait outside, I'll wrap up with Chris. Be out soon. 3 minutes. Any longer and you're homeless. Leaving, I glared at the bosses. Scumbags, shame on them. Out the door, I headed downstairs, stopping at the bottom where someone blocked my way. Linda, is that you? I looked up to see a disgusting face. Sorry, don't know you. I stepped around him. Harry followed, long time no see, care to sit for a drink or two? I picked up the pace, reaching the car to get in. The door was yanked open by Harry. He smugly looked over the vehicle, found a rich guy, huh? My stomach turned, let go. What are you pretending for? Is serving old men nice? I shoved, trapping his hand in the door. Harry cursed, about to lash out. But his raised arm was caught by someone's firm grip. Calvin stood in front of me, glancing back, get in the car. Harry looked at Calvin, incredulously, you're Linda's rich catch. Young and even better looking. Couldn't believe it. That's right. I wrapped my arms around Calvin's. My husband. Calvin's expression slightly softened, and he let go of Harry's hand. Who are you? Harry chuckled, I'm Linda's ex-boyfriend. Calvin paused, turned back, and frowned at me. Weren't you saying I'm your first love? I was stunned too. Yeah, Calvin really is my first love. In the next second, I turned to Calvin, looking all hurt. Honey, I did hang out with him. Calvin's face changed instantly. Let's eat. I pouted, do you think there are really guys out there who think they're the hottest thing just because a girl looks at them? That if a girl dresses up a bit, she's flirting with him? That having a meal means they're his girlfriend? Is their logic just different from normal people? In the next second, Calvin looked disgusted and said 2 words to Harry, idiot. Through the car exhaust fumes, Harry's angry voice rang out, seriously, are you guys crazy? Insane. I don't know who's actually nuts. Harry was one of the halfway decent-looking guys I met online. He came off as a successful type, and in person, he played the part pretty well. Until he tried to drug my drink when I wasn't paying attention. Back then, I didn't know Fiona yet. That day, she was taking a client to a hotel and happened to see Harry helping my semi-conscious self into a room. She sensed something was wrong and used the threat of calling the police to get the hotel staff to open the door. After a hospital checkup, it was confirmed that there was indeed a sedative in my system. With evidence in hand, we reported him, and Harry landed in a 10-day detention. Since then, I've lost all faith in men on dating apps. Who knows what kind of stuff they get up to, chatting up everyone online. Only after comparing did I realize how rare and precious it is for a man to be normal. After coming home, Calvin threw a small tantrum. Why didn't I meet you sooner? You wouldn't have had the chance to eat with another man. I don't get why some guys get all frustrated and think the girl is being childish when she's jealous. I actually find it kinda sweet. I whispered to comfort him, baby, don't be upset. I'll eat every meal with you from now on. Calvin pouted, then will you come to the office and have lunch with me tomorrow? All right. The next morning, I started boiling soup. By the time I got to Calvin's office with the thermos, it was only 10:30. Guess what happened next? Calvin's female secretary came out of his office looking all disheveled and got flustered when she saw me. Miss Linda, Calvin's out on business. He's not in the office. She stood at the door, clearly not intending to let me in. Oh. I glanced at her smeared lipstick and missing shirt button and chuckled coldly. I was trying so hard to make Calvin healthy meals, control his diet and schedule, just to have a super healthy and exceptional baby. And he's out there messing around on me. It's a complete insult to all my efforts. It pissed me off. I chucked the food in the trash. Just as I was heading downstairs, I got a call from Calvin. Babe, I had to meet a client unexpectedly today. Won't be in the office for lunch. Don't worry about bringing food. I deadpanned, oh. Men's words aren't all that trustworthy. In the car, I was still upset and even got a stomachache, so I headed to the hospital. The doctor ran some tests and gave me a slip, go for an ultrasound. Surprised, I asked, am I pregnant? Half an hour later, the results came out. About 5 weeks, early pregnancy. If I hadn't been so mad today, I might not have found out. I immediately called Fiona, my mood lifting. Girl, I'm pregnant. Come help me pack, I'm getting out of here. And bring your friend who sells houses, too. That very afternoon, I sold my apartment for 20% below market value. Packed my bags and canceled my phone service. Most importantly, left Calvin a note. I'm done playing. See ya. Fiona later told me that Calvin came to her looking for me the day he found out I was gone. She was my only true friend. Sticking to the plan, Fiona claimed she didn't know where I was. Even pulled out a fake IOU for $50,000, saying I owed her money, too. She asked Calvin if he was going to help pay it off for me, and Calvin fumed, I haven't even settled my score with her. You find her yourself. If I hadn't caught him fooling around, I might have felt guilty leaving. Finding out he wasn't a good guy made it much easier. 4 years later, in a southern second-tier city, I picked a well-reviewed kindergarten. Gave my son a little bow tie and reminded him, don't pick on other kids at school. Justin rolled his eyes, got it, Mom. If they don't mess with me, I won't mess with them. And if they do? I'll run. He said. Win and you go to jail, lose and you end up in the hospital. It's not worth it. Good. I gave him a helmet and sat him on the back of my e-scooter. We wobbled our way to the kindergarten. From a distance, I saw it was packed with cars. All black, taking up the whole street. Even my little scooter couldn't squeeze in. I parked the e-bike on the curb and lifted my son off. He was holding his soy milk, and I had a bun in my mouth. I pointed at the car brand and mumbled. These Audis are expensive. Better stay away. You hit one, and it's gonna cost. Justin, trotting behind me, couldn't help but complain, "Who's showing off like this?" It was pretty over the top. I thought to myself, even princes these days must be attending public kindergartens. I wanted to see just which family's kid it was so I could tell my son to steer clear. In the next second, I spotted a familiar face among the crowd. "Calvin. It's your dad." I grabbed Justin and spun around. "Son, run." Guess my steps were too loud. I caught the attention of the guy standing at the school gate. "Linda. Stop right there." I have no idea how Calvin found us, but I know the right answer to this classic dilemma. Save the kid. "Son, you go left, I'll go right. Let's meet at the back door." Justin looked serious. "Okay, Mom. Be safe." Then he quickly disappeared into a nearby stationery store and slipped out the back. Wait. If there was a back door, we could have gone together. Ugh. I ran 2 blocks non-stop, and once I was sure Calvin wasn't following, I took a deep breath. Looks like I'll have to switch up my route yet again. Once I got to the back gate of the complex, Justin wasn't there. "He's got short legs, runs slow." Understandable. I'll wait. Before long, I saw Justin being brought back by a group of bodyguards, looking defeated. Uh-oh. The little guy got caught. Calvin followed closely behind. "Where's your home? We've been going around here twice already." Justin looked around, then spotted me hiding behind a tree, and suddenly burst into tears. Calvin panicked. "Why are you crying? I didn't even scare you." "Justin, boo-hoo, you're a bad guy. Even if you beat me, I won't take you to my house. Tell my mom I'm no coward." At this point, there's no more use hiding. I grabbed a clump of wet dirt from the ground and charged forward, shouting, "Calvin." Calvin turned his head. "Eat dirt." The bodyguards stood stone-faced in the narrow alleyway. Even the fierce terrier next door tucked its tail in fright. Calvin came out of the bathroom, drying his hair with a towel. He glanced around the cramped apartment, then smirked. "You're living with my son in this tiny, run-down place?" I wasn't having it. "Who's your son?" He looked at Justin. I checked. He was born in August 2021. "Linda, why? Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant? Why did you leave?" I can't hide it, Justin is a spitting image of Calvin. I cleared my throat and sat up straight. "Actually, I owe loan sharks a ton of money. They said if I didn't pay, they'd come after my whole family. I had to leave for your safety." Calvin froze for a second. Such a lame excuse. "You think I'd believe that?" I put on my most serious face. "I'm not lying, it's true." After a brief silence, Calvin asked, "How much do you owe?" I hesitated a bit, then held up 2 fingers. 20 million? Yep. Though I honestly have no clue how anyone racks up such debt. Calvin nodded. "I'll pay it for you. Now pack your stuff, we're going back to City A." Even though I didn't want to, Calvin was using our son against me. First thing he wanted when we got back was to get married. You said according to your village customs, you gotta get married after getting pregnant. The kid's already this big, time to make it official. For years gone by, he's still stubborn as ever. Too sudden. Sudden? Calvin's voice jumped. "More sudden than when you left?" "You know, when I came back, found the place turned upside down, I thought there had been a break-in. Some woman I didn't recognize told me it was her house now and kicked me out. I was worried sick about you, went frantic looking. You have any idea what these past 4 years were like for me?" Seeing Calvin so upset for the first time, I shrank back a little. I pinched Justin's arm lightly, and he got the hint. He instantly started wailing. "Mom, I'm scared." I quickly pulled him into my arms before Calvin noticed he wasn't really crying. "See? A surprised dad appearing is shocking for the kid, isn't it?" Calvin took a deep breath. "So what do you propose?" I pretended to think it over seriously. "Let's wait until our son accepts you, then we'll get the paperwork done. Old strategy, delay tactics. For some reason, Calvin had the confidence to agree. After passing the job of taking care of the kid to Calvin, I went to meet Fiona. She gasped when she saw me. "Whoa, how'd you get roped back in?" I shot her an annoyed look. "Seriously, I told you not to send toys to my son." Calvin tracked me down through the delivery slip. We all figured after all this time, Calvin would have given up. Didn't imagine he'd keep tabs on Fiona this whole time. One slip up, and he traced it right to my hideout. Fiona smacked her forehead. My bad, my bad." I wondered why Calvin suddenly wired me 50 grand. Turns out it was a fee for gratitude. Gratitude, my foot, gimme that. In the end, Fiona transferred the 50 grand to me. Temporary funding for my next getaway. When I got home, Calvin and Justin were sitting across from each other at the table. Calvin stared at Justin, sometimes frowning, sometimes grinning. He handed over a piece of chocolate. "Wanna try?" Justin glanced at it indifferently. "Causes cavities." Calvin quickly switched to offering a bag of chips. Still no good reaction. Junk food. Not healthy. Calvin frantically searched through the pile of snacks, not finding anything suitable. "What do you want to eat?" "I'll go buy it." Justin glanced sideways, arms folded arrogantly. "My mom says, bad guys like to lure kids with treats." Calvin, disheartened, put down the snacks. "I'm not a bad guy, I'm your dad." "Justin, you're a big bad guy." Seeing me come back, he looked like he found a savior. "You're back. Hungry? Let me cook dinner." Just as dinner was getting prepared, the doorbell rang. Lily rushed in anxiously. "Where's the kid?" "Where is he?" "Let me see him." Though my marriage with Calvin ended unexpectedly, Lily's always treated me well. "Call me Grandma." Justin instantly followed. "Hi, Grandma." Lily couldn't stop smiling. "What a good boy." Calvin seemed a bit annoyed. "Mom, why are you here?" Lily snapped back. "Don't call me Mom. I'm not your mom. As long as my grandson doesn't acknowledge you, you're not my son." Lily showed up and left in no time. She said she wanted to stay and take care of the grandson. Calvin told her not to cause trouble. She called him ungrateful and stormed off. Since Justin insists on sleeping with me at night, Calvin has to crash in the guest room. At night, Justin and I huddled up and whispered. "Mom, he said if I call him Dad, I'll inherit everything." "Is he rich? Using money to win over a 3-year-old? That's just wrong." "No idea, but he's definitely loaded compared to your mother here." "Don't worry, son. Kids born out of wedlock still have inheritance rights." "What if he has more kids?" "Well, nothing we can do. Calling him Dad doesn't guarantee that he won't have more kids. Let's not be greedy, you get what you get." Justin nodded. "When I inherit, I'll buy you lots of treats." "Deal." Looks like I better outlive Calvin. Calvin found a preschool for Justin. He works during the day and takes care of the kid at night. I have nothing to do, so I'm bored out of my mind. Then something happened. Calvin went to pick up our son from school and didn't come back for a while. He randomly sent me an address. When I got there, I found it was an amusement park. Justin was playing inside, and Calvin was sitting at a table with a woman. Calvin didn't look too happy. "Do you know her?" I looked at the woman carefully and confirmed I didn't recognize her. But she kept giving me signals. "Don't you remember Auntie, Auntie?" I was confused, and then Calvin asked the woman, "Do you even know your niece's name? I got a bad feeling." Calvin smirked. "Linda, do you not recognize your auntie? 4 years ago at the wedding, Calvin might not have greeted my friends and family. But he has a great memory and remembered their faces. So today when he ran into Auntie on the street, he started a conversation. Auntie didn't remember things from that long ago, she was just there for the free meal. Got caught right away." Calvin quickly pieced it together and was really pissed off. "Linda. You never intended to marry me, did you? The truth came out suddenly. I was caught off guard, but not unprepared. Yeah, I only found you attractive with good genes. I wanted a baby with you. Before you, I'd checked out lots of guys, but they didn't meet my standards. You got lucky and ended up picked. Calvin's last bit of hope faded. So, you were playing with my feelings the whole time? I smirked. And what about you? Weren't you and your hot secretary hitting it off? My intentions weren't pure, but you weren't clean either. We're both flawed, so let's not blame each other. Calvin looked shocked. Hot secretary? You mean Amy? There's nothing between us. I figured any more denial was pointless. You don't remember? On our last day, we were supposed to have dinner, and I came early. I caught Amy coming out of your office all messed up. She didn't tell you I'd been there. Calvin frowned as if trying to recall something. Then suddenly swore. He dialed a number on his phone. Get your ass over here, now. Neither of us said a word after that. I waited for his explanation, and he waited for someone. Half an hour later, his close buddy Evan sauntered over to me. Long time no see, sis-in-law. The next moment, he got kicked down by Calvin. You son of a... I could kill you right now. Evan got up, riddled with bruises. Calvin, you've lost it. Didn't I tell you to take your flirting elsewhere? You're the reason my wife's gone, you idiot. I watched the two of them brawl right in front of me. Amy rushed over to stop the chaos. They explained Calvin wasn't in the office that day. It was Evan fooling around in Calvin's office with the secretary. The two of them got married the next year. Amy repeatedly apologized, saying her and Evan's actions had caused misunderstandings between Calvin and me. All three of them waited for my reaction, looking cautious. I just nodded, got it. Later that night, after Justin fell asleep, I grabbed 2 beers and headed to the balcony. I knew Calvin couldn't sleep either. He sat next to me without saying a word. I took a sip, he took a sip. Do you remember when I told you my parents were abroad? Yeah. Calvin chuckled bitterly. That was a lie, wasn't it? I smiled too. Of course, it wasn't true. In reality, I don't have parents. My dad ran off with another woman, and my mom's gone. Calvin paused, holding the can, and listened to me talk. I think it was when I was about 5, my dad found a pretty woman and wanted a divorce. My mom refused, thinking that not having a son made my dad cheat. So she cheated too. Her reason was different from my dad's. She wanted a son to win him back. It was ridiculous. Of course, my dad found out in the end. He could cheat all he wanted, but when he found out my mom was seeing another man, he blew up. Called her shameless, a whore, a tramp. Eventually, he even shifted the assets and tricked her into signing divorce papers. My mom got her wish and had a son, but she died from severe bleeding during childbirth. The man she was with, Mr. Young, took the baby and raised him with his wife, who was cool with it. The year I got into college, Mr. Yang's family reached out. They said my half-brother, whom I'd never met, was about to start middle school. They thought I should work to help buy a house in a good school district for him. The world is like a giant mental hospital. One day you're having an episode, the next day I'm freaking out. There's always some drama, never a dull moment. I tossed an empty can aside, and Calvin handed me another. So, you don't want to get married? Nope. What's the point? It doesn't guarantee nobody will cheat, or that the kids will be happy. Calvin's voice was a bit hoarse. Linda, I can guarantee. I laughed like he'd told a joke. Most guys promise like you, but we all know how that ends. So I just want a kid, not for some crap about family legacy, definitely not to tie down a man. Girls can be wild, boys can be gentle. I'm cool with anything. Honestly, you're a good person. Don't. Calvin cut me off. I'm not aiming for any good guy award. If you think I'm great, why not give it a try? People are different, you can't just write everyone off. Lots of women thought they were the lucky ones right until the truth hit. Marriage can't keep hearts secure, and vows can't cage souls. So I think getting married or not doesn't really matter. So, Calvin. I turned to him, eyes kinda hazy. I'm not getting married. If you wanna marry, find someone else. Calvin gently lifted my chin, his eyes deep as night. It's too late, Linda. From the moment you showed up, it's always been you. You don't wanna marry, then we won't. I'm with you. I chuckled softly and leaned on his shoulder. Don't promise too easily, man. I was all groggy, and Calvin carried me back to the room. From that day on, Calvin never brought up marriage again. But to the outside world, we've been married for 4 years now. We live together, sleep together, raise kids together. No different than any regular couple. I, Justin, and Lily are all in Calvin's will, notarized and everything. But my own little estate only goes to my son, 'cause it's too small to split. Sometimes Justin would stay with his grandma for a few days while Calvin and I went out. He'd complain, Mom ditched me to go on a trip with her boyfriend again. Not marrying has its perks, it's like we're always dating. If it doesn't work out, no messy paperwork. Just come and go at will. Years and years went by, and we're past all those worldly desires now. We're lying in bed together. I asked Calvin, keep going? Calvin reluctantly replied, yeah, don't feel like changing my will. When other kids were busy with love, marriage, and starting families, Justin was thriving with his own business. People often asked, why isn't your Justin married yet? I'd say, if he wants to, he will. If not, he won't. Calvin would chime in, what? Is it illegal to stay single? Later, Lily passed away, and friends and family gathered to say goodbye. Her tombstone read, Son Calvin, daughter-in-law Linda.